to the Antonio Parkinson Project. I am Antonio Parkinson, and tweet with us right now at Parkinson Project, ParkinsonProjec without the T. Join us right now. We got a good show lined up for you. We're talking about celibacy or abstinence. Is it still relevant? We've got a lot of good guests, a lot of good interesting stories that are going to be told. So stick around, stay right here, and we will be right back on the Antonio Parkinson Project. Hi, I'm Antonio Parkinson. Join me for the Antonio Parkinson Project each and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31.
Is your event powered by Black Market Strategies? Theirs was Black Market Strategies, the new face of urban marketing. Let us plan your next big event or design that special flyer. Black Market Strategies specializes in street team deployment, flyer distribution, target marketing, product and event promotions, marketing and brand awareness, campaigns and election strategies. But wait, there's more. Media relations and solutions, business strategies, community marketing. We promote people, product, events, and brands. Is your event powered by Black Market Strategies? Give us a call today. 901-379-9101.
Black Market TV. And welcome back. You are on the Antonio Parkinson Project, and I am Antonio Parkinson. This segment is brought to you by Skinny Fiber. Ready to lose that weight, your New Year's resolution? Get you a bottle of Skinny Fiber. It's at skinnyuniverse.com. There's that shameless plug. Knock that weight off right now. You know who I'm talking to. You know you need it if you need it. I need it too. Skinny Fiber. Get it now. So, we're talking about celibacy. Speaking of which, trying to be celibate, get you some Skinny Fiber. But no, all seriousness, we're talking about celibacy and abstinence. And joining us on the show right now on the Antonio Parkinson Project, Mr. Earl J. Fisher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, my dear brother. Touche. I'm glad to be back with you, brother.
There you go, man. We're honored to have you on the Antonio Parkinson Project. First time, right?
Yeah, it is my first time. Definitely not my first time having candid conversations with you, but yeah, my first time on this for sure.
Well, hey, we're excited to have you, and I know you always have a lot to offer, you know, and I have a feeling that you will become a recurring guest on the Antonio Parkinson Project. We're excited about that.
Well, we're going to work out the details of my contract after this segment.
There you go, there you go. Yeah, so Earl Fisher.
Yeah.
You are a pastor.
I am.
Pastor of Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church.
I give you a quarter for saying that correct next time.
Hey, there you go. I thank you for the quarter. And you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, how you got there, because I want to, as soon as you get finished doing your little quick bio, I want to jump right in here and talk about some celibacy and some abstinence.
All right, well, yeah.
Thoughts are.
Well, man, again, thanks for having me. I am Pastor Earl Fisher, pastor of the Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church, 3890 Mill Branch in the windy city of Whitehaven. Actually got there in 2011.
That's in Memphis, Tennessee, for all people that are that don't know where Whitehaven is.
Geographically challenged, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so I got to Abyssinian in 2011. I also am a college professor. I teach religious studies at a couple of different institutions. I teach at Rhodes, teach at Strayer University. So, yeah, I'm just glad to be here. I'm also a PhD student at the University of Memphis studying rhetoric and communication. So
yeah, give it up for that. Yeah, we like that.
Black man learning, baby.
There you go, baby. There you go. So you're studying religious history.
I have. What I'm studying right now is more about rhetoric and communication, language, society, politics, and
so let me jump in there. What's the history of celibacy?
Wow. I guess it depends on what you would consider to be the starting point of human sexuality.
My question is why?
Why is the starting point relevant? Is that what you're asking?
Why would it, how did anyone come up with celibacy or abstinence when that's such a natural act by humans?
You think celibacy is a natural act?
Well, no, I'm saying the opposite, actually.
So obviously at some point it seems to be a form of population control.
A form of torture. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Could be. I mean, that depends on his view of sex and sexuality is. Now, I do take the stance that sex and sexuality is a gift and a gift from our Creator. So most of the time people use biblical literature as the source of their sex education. And I say, especially if you're a sister, that's just a bad place to get your sex education.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Well, first of all, the Bible written from a very misogynistic, patriarchal perspective, and the function of sex and sexuality in the biblical text is primarily, and I want to say more than that, but I'm just trying to be modest, but at least primarily for procreation. So you don't have a lot of presentation of sex in what we would consider in the 21st century at least to be a healthy concept or presentation of sexuality. So it's just, I'm not saying that there's nothing there, that it cannot be a reference point for us to guide ourselves in how we're going to be sexually responsible. But if that's all you're weighing it on, it doesn't, in my estimation, give us a well-rounded understanding of what sex and sexuality is.
Right, and before I really ask you specifically what your position is on celibacy and abstinence,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about that, the Bible and its perspective as you see it, because there was a whole lot of procreation happening in the Old Testament when men were able to have multiple wives.
Right, right. Not only wives, but concubines, as they're called. And the order of the day was what we would call polygamy. So a man could have as many wives or mistresses, if you will, as he wanted to, and a woman was pledged to be the property of her father to begin with. Then the father would give her off to some other man or some other family that was headed by a man. And so a man could have as many wives as he wanted to, but a woman was supposed to be pledged to at least one man.
So not a whole lot of celibacy and abstinence back then, right?
Not to say that there wasn't. I'm pretty sure that there were some people who didn't have sexual intercourse. Not every character is listed as it relates to their sexual activity, but most of the well-known figures and characters in the Bible, at least from my perspective that I can think of right now, especially the women, they were valued based upon their ability to procreate. So barrenness was considered to be a curse, and oftentimes even a curse of God. So if a woman wasn't able to bear children, then she was seen as less than a woman, and women themselves already had a bottom totem pole position to begin with in the Bible. But that doesn't mean that every character was relegated to that type of function either.
There were eunuchs in that time also.
Yeah, there was some, and one of the Ethiopian eunuch found in Acts, I believe, chapter 8 or chapter 9, was someone who was said to be a pretty high-ranking official. In fact, some scholars suggest that the reason that the eunuch was castrated was so that they could be trusted a little bit further, but so that the people who castrated them somehow controlled their bodily functions, especially as it related to their sexuality. So yeah, I mean, you had a diverse group of people and maybe even sexual expressions, but the primary one that has been gleaned over the years, as you asked me about where celibacy came from, I think it came from a particular interpretation of certain religious texts, especially some of the Pauline texts in the New Testament that try to relegate certain ministers or religious leaders to certain type of sexual activity.
You know, and there's a lot of that in the media right now, especially if you start talking about the Catholic Church and the priests that were sworn to celibacy. Yeah,
they're having some discussion about that now. Not everybody seems to be supportive of the traditional concept of every priest in the Catholic Church has to be celibate. So yeah, it's good to have that type of discussion, I think.
You know, and there was obviously some issue with that. You know, I guess the sworn celibacy, is it an oath that they take to celibacy?
Yes, as far as I am, yeah, it is a vow. It's a vow that they take, and part of it goes into this concept of what I would consider to be a mythical type of purity, and it does, I believe, put a bad rep on sex and sexuality to begin with. It's as if sex and sexuality is not a gift. So these men, because the only ones who are currently able to or qualified to be a priest are men, and then they have to be celibate because one concept is to have sex with a woman somehow opens up the man from being something other than the leader or in control over his body and his mind.
So let me jump in here, man. I ate up a lot of the segment, man. You know, setting this thing up. So Earl Fisher, you're a pastor.
That's correct.
And so what is your position on celibacy and abstinence?
Well, I think that, again, as I said earlier, sex is indeed a gift from God. And when I look at the scientific reality and the limitations on the human understanding, I would say celibacy is a gift from God. Abstinence is a gift from God. But I'm not sure that that is the be-all and end-all of sexuality for anybody who is not married. So I'll confess that I take a relatively liberal stance in that regard, and this is not to object to the orthodox view or more conservative view, but my understanding of it is we should be teaching sexual responsibility, and one form of sexual responsibility is indeed abstinence and celibacy.
And one form is abstinence and celibacy.
Correct.
What are the other forms?
I mean, I would say when two adults have are at an age of consent and are trying to foster a significant relationship, then I think that sex and sexuality needs to be discussed and is on the table.
And is it wrong for them to have sex?
I don't know if it's
Unmarried?
wrong, and I don't want to toss out a cookie cutter, one size fits all type thing either. It's a case by case basis. So again, I would like to put the liberty on the individual. If we educate individuals, I think they can make the best decisions for themselves, the most responsible decision for themselves. As a pastor, one thing I'm relatively clear about is it's not my pastoral responsibility to police my parishioners' sexuality.
Is it a challenge for the church to push and preach celibacy and abstinence to young individuals? And should that be the word of the day, or should there be a retooling of what we teach to our youth today, or our young adults?
Right. Well, the church is full of a lot of diverse people. I'm not here to speak for every pastor. I can only speak for me. And so I think that it is a challenge to make sure we're communicating a relevant and relatable understanding of the gospel and what it is that God has required of us. So to that end, I can understand and even to some degree sympathize with people who do teach abstinence only, but that's not my fundamental conviction. So for me, again, it's about sexual education. And studies show that when you educate people, the teenage pregnancy rate is lower in neighborhoods and communities where adequate sex education has been taught. So I think what you don't want to do is try to relegate somebody's options or their ability to make a sound decision just because you're afraid of what decisions they may make.
Earl J. Fisher, about to be a doctor. Thank you for joining us on the show, man. Yeah. And I tell you what, that's an interesting take from you, especially you being a pastor in regards to celibacy and abstinence. But we definitely appreciate it on the Antonio Parkinson Project, and appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for having me. _Earl on Twitter. We can continue this conversation, or meet us on Facebook or anything like that. Instagram. Peace. Thanks for having me, Touche.
Yeah, there you go, and it's right there on the screen. So reach out to Pastor Earl Fisher, Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church, who has an interesting take on celibacy and abstinence. But coming up, this young lady, she was celibate for 5 years, and she saw some images and it all came tumbling down. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, right here on the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Skinny Fiber works. I've got my Skinny Fiber. Have you got yours? If you need to drop 5 pounds quickly, Skinny Fiber works. If you need to get in that little black dress, Skinny Fiber works. Skinny Fiber lets you eat less and feel full. It's 100% all natural. It detoxifies the body, improves blood sugar imbalances, and melts away stubborn fat. Get yours today. For more information, call 901-860-5110. Or you may check out our website at www.skinnyuniverse.com.
Hi, I'm Antonio Parkinson. Join me for the Antonio Parkinson Project each and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31.
Is your event powered by Black Market Strategies? Theirs was Black Market Strategies, the new face of urban marketing. Let us plan your next big event or design that special flyer. Black Market Strategies specializes in street team deployment, flyer distribution, target marketing, product and event promotions, marketing and brand awareness, campaigns and election strategies. But wait, there's more. Media relations and solutions, business strategies, community marketing. We promote people, product, events, and brands. Is your event powered by Black Market Strategies? Give us a call today. 901-379-9101.
Black Market TV. And welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. I am Antonio Parkinson, and today we are talking about celibacy. And I said that with emphasis, celibacy. Celibacy and abstinence. And joining us right now, Cynthia McKinney. Cynthia McKinney, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, we're happy to have you. We're excited to have you. You have an interesting story, Cynthia. So 5 years, huh?
Yeah,
5 years
long years, 5 years.
That is 5 long years, yeah.
Five.
To say the least, 5 long years. So,
Yes.
5 long years, 5 years celibate, or 5 years abstaining. Rather.
Either way, I wasn't, yeah.
Either way, you were without.
Without.
5 years.
Yes.
So 5 years. So tell us, let's talk about that journey. First of all, let's talk about right at the beginning or right before that 5 years, what was it that triggered your mind to say, that's it, that's enough. I'm not doing it anymore. And why? First of all, why? Why did you decide to abstain?
Well, in 2005, I became a Christian, and I not only stopped having sex, I stopped quite a few things. I stopped smoking in 2006, and I felt like that's what God wanted me to do, to stop having sex, and it was a process. I would go 3 months, and then I fell off, and I went 6 months and 9 months, and then finally I was able to go 5 years straight without having sex.
Okay, so 5 years, and so what was there anything leading up to that I guess you said you got saved?
Yes.
Right. So that was a life-changing event for you.
Yes.
And after that, you decided that sex was one of the things that had to go. And why sex?
I just felt like that's what God desired of me. It was a struggle because that is like Pastor said, it's a gift from God, and it's something that I believe that He allows us to do in the confines of marriage. But it was something that I struggled with. People say that you can't be addicted to sex, but I actually felt like it was an addiction for me. I would actually physically hurt when I couldn't have sex. I don't know if people can understand it. If you've ever smoked, the feeling that you get when you wake up first thing in the morning, you want to smoke. That's the way I felt when I wanted to have sex and couldn't have sex.
And you were able to just stop cold turkey?
Oh, no, I wasn't able to stop cold turkey. It was a process. I would go a month, 3 months, and then I went 9 months, and then finally I was able to go for 5 years straight. It was a day-by-day thing, sometimes minute by minute. It was hard.
So at the beginning of that 5 years, were you involved were you in a relationship?
I was not in a relationship. I actually had to break away from the normal things that I was involved in. I had to break away from some people. Everything that I was associated with, a lot of the people that I would talk to, a lot of the guys, I had to break away from everything. Just like a person that's addicted to drugs, they say you have to change your people, places, and things. And it was the same thing for me. I had to break away.
So you broke away. Mm-hmm. You broke away, and then 3 months later, did the people show back up, or did you go back? What happened?
Well, not actually. They wouldn't show back up. Like I said, I was usually the aggressor. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a matter of somebody coming to me and trying to talk me into doing something that I had said I wasn't going to do. I had the desire to stop, but I didn't always have the will.
I've been there. I understand exactly what you're saying there. So, and the longest point that you were abstaining, how long was it? How long did you abstain?
5 years.
So 5 years.
5 years.
5 years. So you abstained for 5 years, and so you're coming up on that 5th year, and you're doing well, and what happened?
I ran into somebody that I went to high school with, and we were just friends and just talking on the phone. He just talking, and me being me, I said some things, and I asked him. I said some things, and I asked, and I said, send me a picture. And he sent a picture, and from that moment, I was enticed. And
well, my goodness, what kind of picture did he send?
Come on now, Touche.
Well, look, I don't want to assume anything. I'm sure my viewing audience does not want to assume anything. So
it was a picture of his manhood. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he sent this picture.
Yes.
And was it just one picture? That was it.
It was just one. That's all it took.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
And so
that image was planted in my head. I was enticed, and from that moment, I felt compelled to scratch that itch until I did it.
Boy, it gets no realer than that on the Antonio Parkinson Project. But let me ask you something. So what was there any fighting this urge? And you got 5 years under your belt, and then he sends this picture, and so did you try to fight it? Did you try to continue to abstain? Did you? What happened?
I did try to fight it, and actually he knew what I was dealing with, and he said he didn't want to be a part of me falling off the wagon. So I ended up going with something that I was familiar with.
Oh, so it wasn't him?
It wasn't him, but it was his picture that enticed me.
Oh, wow. So picture guy was still the reason that you fell off the wagon, right?
Yes.
But it wasn't him that
took me off of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then in the fall off the wagon, the fall off the wagon. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So in the fall off the wagon, was it someone that was in the past life?
It was someone that was I was
firefighting?
familiar with, had been friends with him for over 20 years.
Did you explain the same thing to him?
He knew.
He knew, but he didn't care.
He did not care.
You didn't care at the time either.
No, I did not.
Right. And so after that, after all of that, and so it kind of goes to show that you have to guard everything when you're trying to live this life, right?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Because those natural urges are continuing to manifest themselves. But so after that, then did you regain your footing?
No.
In your life of abstinence?
No.
Was it worse?
It was worse. Just like they say a drug addict, once you go back out there, it's worse. It's the same thing. It was worse. It was worse.
So are you celibate now?
Yes, I am.
Abstaining now?
I'm abstaining now. It's a day-by-day process. And, yes, so far it's been about 6 months.
It's been about 6 months?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Good. Give her a round of applause for that. 6 months. 6 months abstinence. But why? So why are you abstaining again? What do you want to get out of this? What do you expect to get out of it?
I would like to wait until I'm married. I believe that's what God called us to do. I believe that's what he wants me to do. And like I said, sex was something that I really struggled with. And I don't want it to consume me anymore like it did, So if I'm married, I can get it all I want and not have to worry. Hopefully I can get it all I want and not have to worry about all the other stuff.
Sure, there'll be a happy man. There's some happy men watching.
Well, he's going to have to take a whole month off work when I get married. He better have some money. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Right. So are you seeing any benefit from abstaining right now? Is there any benefit in your abstinence?
Any benefit? As far as my relationship with God, I see a lot of benefit. I don't have all that cloudy, all that. I don't feel dirty like I would feel before. Initially when I messed up, so to speak, I felt so dirty. I couldn't do it. I just cried. I just felt so convicted. I almost didn't even want to go back to church because I felt so dirty. But now I feel closer to God, because I feel like I'm clean. I'm doing what he is requiring of me to do. So.
Well, that's good. That's good. So what kind of advice, Ms. McKinney, being that you've been up, you've been down, you've seen the best of this, and I guess we could say the worst of it also. Both ends of the spectrum. What advice do you have for people that's trying to practice abstinence?
Just get around some like-minded people and be careful. You got to guard your gates. I didn't guard mine, and my eye gate was full of those images, and that's what caused me to fall off. And if you do fall off, just get back up, So.
Cynthia McKinney, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Antonio Parkinson Project. And it's been completely real, in this segment. We appreciate you. And we're definitely going to have you back on another show. We probably need to do an update show on abstinence with Cynthia McKinney, see where she is. And don't go anywhere, because coming up, Minister Darrell Holloway, and you do not want to miss what he has to say in regards to celibacy and abstinence. You're right here on the Antonio Parkinson Project. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Skinny Fiber works. I've got my Skinny Fiber. Have you got yours? If you need to drop 5 pounds quickly, Skinny Fiber works. If you need to get in that little black dress, Skinny Fiber works. Skinny Fiber lets you eat less and feel full. It's 100% all natural. It detoxifies the body, improves blood sugar imbalances, and melts away stubborn fat. Get yours today. For more information, call 901-860-5110. Or you may check out our website at www.skinnyuniverse.com.
Hi, I'm Antonio Parkinson. Join me for the Antonio Parkinson Project each and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31. Welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. I am Antonio Parkinson. Tweet with us right now at Parkinson Project. That's PARKINPROJEC without the T. So join us. Hey, we've been talking about celibacy and abstinence, asking them if they're abstaining right now, and it's been a struggle for some and easy for others. But joining us right now, Minister Darrell Holloway. We call him Sammy Holloway sometimes. Yeah, Minister Darrell, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Mr. Touche? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us. And this segment is brought to you by Skinny Fiber. So make sure you get your Skinny Fiber. If you need to lose that weight, get you some Skinny Fiber right now at SkinnyUniverse.com. There it is right there. Can y'all see that? Get a good shot. Okay, cool deal. Skinny Fiber. So, Minister Darrell.
Yes, sir.
You heard our previous guest, and they were talking about the images. And you know, their fall from grace in regards to abstaining. They were abstaining. They held on for 5 years. Then the image hit them, and they were back on it again. So what are you? First of all, before you even talk about that, first of all, what is your take and your position on abstinence and celibacy? Because you deal with a lot of young people. Am I correct?
I do. Yes, sir.
What do you tell them?
Personally, I encourage young people to abstain. Their earnest effort to abstain. And I like to I heard Pastor Fisher earlier, and I like to deal with the spirit or the intent of the Bible. And I know the abstinence piece is more so about guarding that individual from the hurt that results from, you know, those situations working out less than favorable once you've already given somebody the only thing that you know that they can't get anywhere else.
Right. So there's a tremendous value to that.
I
think that's what you're saying.
It is. And I trust that it's communicated. I'm not sure that that's always communicated to our young people.
And what are you hearing? What's the feedback in regards to abstaining or you know, what's the feedback that you're hearing from? Because I stopped shy of calling it celibacy because based on the definitions that I got, you know, it says here the words abstinence and celibacy are often used interchangeably but are different. So abstinence is the absence of intercourse even for an individual who is married. And we might touch on that too. But celibacy is the avoidance of all forms of sexual activity, including but not limited to the state of marriage. So are we pushing celibacy for these young? Because some of them may not have ever been sexually active. Are we pushing celibacy? We're pushing abstinence. And what's the feedback that's coming back from those individuals that you minister to?
Well, the feedback is that it's hard. No pun intended. Right. The feedback, though, is that it's really difficult. And I seriously discourage abstinence for married people. I think that was the point. That's why I got married. But
right. Well, let me ask you this before you go. Okay, did you practice celibacy before you got married?
My wife isn't here.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
About a month. We did for about a month right before, you know.
A month in?
Yeah. Didn't like it. Did not like it.
Honest?
Did not like it. I did not.
Right, did not.
It was her. It was all her.
Right.
So.
Right. You did not like it. Okay. And you got married. Right.
I do understand. I do understand the spirit behind encouraging those young people to abstain or to practice celibacy, because I do believe sex is a gift. I do believe it's a beautiful thing, and I do trust that I don't think it's just for procreation, because there's so many other things that are involved and so many other things that take place once you cross that line or once you've given someone that.
Right. And what's the age group of the individuals that you work with? What's that demographic?
Oh, man. Primarily, I work with 9th through 12th grade. But as far as the education piece at our ministry, I deal with college and career down.
Okay, so college and career down. So and I was asking you that too. So is abstinence, is it even relevant at all to that age group? Because this is a different time that we're in regard when it comes to sex and the images and what we're seeing, what they're seeing, you know, what they're getting in videos and music and television, movies. Is it even relevant? Have they become desensitized?
Believe it or not, it is a relevant subject. There are so many. There are a lot of young people that they would like to abstain. They would like to keep themselves. Just as there are a lot of young adults or people who've already experienced a sexual encounter who wish that they would have waited or could have saved it. You know what I'm saying? They could have kept themselves. Right. But I do think that it's relevant. I think it's real to young people. And so many of it's innate in people to want to be what they feel they should be. Let me say it like that. Because I don't want to get into it right or wrong, but everybody has an inner sense of either I should be in this space or I should not be in this space. And so it's real. I think it's more so about how you communicate how to abstain or the easiest ways to practice celibacy, because there are certain things that you have to go on the offense. That's nothing that you can just wait till it happens to you and then you figure out how you're going to respond.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be proactive in that, and kind of like the young lady said earlier, you have to guard your gates.
Right, yeah, and definitely going back to our previous guest, Cynthia McKinney. You know, she was doing fine up until the image, and you know, that's what this guy's new nickname is, the image, right? Until the image hit her, and or she was hit by the image. So what do you tell them? How do you communicate that to you know anyone? Now, and I'm not just talking about the youth today, because we have more adults watching this show than we have young people. But how do you communicate that to anyone to this day about continuing abstinence, or even starting to become abstinent, or beginning abstaining in their lives?
I first encourage people again to guard not just your gates, but guard those people that have an influence on what you may come into those gates, your eye gate, ear gate.
Is it achievable? Because it's everywhere. These images are everywhere. They permeate every single fiber of society now.
I think it's achievable if that's what you want, because you'll readily recognize it. And it's I'm glad that you took it away from the young people, because I have more conversations with newlyweds, and when I say newlyweds, I say 5 years and under.
Right.
Some 7 years and under. And again, it's the images, and it's how aggressive are you at protecting that? And it's something you gotta want, I mean, you and I are married, and
right.
you and I have challenges, but it's how aggressive are you at protecting those things?
Right, and then especially when you're speaking on the marriage side of then you have to have a partner that's on the same page, with you in that regard also.
Cause sometimes your wife tripping. and so like, yeah, I mean, some say, I can't wait till I get married. I mean, sometimes it had been more difficult, my early marriage years, just because I had gotten into a habit of multiple partners.
Right.
And so, no wasn't no then. It was just no with her. Right. And so once you get married, you kind of like, no for real. Like that's when it hits you. So, I mean, everybody has to. To me, too, though, it's more about what you want from your situation and your relationship with your Creator.
Okay. That's a very interesting take, man. And I didn't get a chance to get to it because I'm getting a wrap-up sign that I seem to be missing every time I get the wrap-up sign from our producers. We're going to have you back on the show, because we're going to talk about married couples at some point, and abstinence, and is there fit? Is there does that even exist in marriages? And from what I'm understanding, it does. But Minister Darrell Holloway, man, you've been awesome, man, and I appreciate you being on the Antonio Parkinson Project. You obviously going to become I think everybody on this show is going to become a recurring guest.
Please have me back.
Man, we're going to have you back. Man.
Yes,
you got
sir.
A lot of good insight, man, and I appreciate you being here on the Antonio Parkinson Project. And we're coming back. And when we come back, we got a young lady who is very articulate, Patrina Singletary, that's going to tell us a lot more about abstinence and about celibacy. So don't go anywhere. You're on the Antonio Parkinson Project. We'll see you in just a minute.
Skinny Fiber works. I've got my Skinny Fiber. Have you got yours? If you need to drop 5 pounds quickly, Skinny Fiber works. If you need to get in that little black dress, Skinny Fiber works. Skinny Fiber lets you eat less and feel full. It's 100% all natural. It detoxifies the body, improves blood sugar imbalances, and melts away stubborn fat. Get yours today. For more information, call 901-860-5110. Or you may check out our website at www.skinnyuniverse.com.
Hi, I'm Antonio Parkinson. Join me for the Antonio Parkinson Project each and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31. And welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. I am Antonio Parkinson, and tweet with us right now at Parkinson Project. That's ParkinsonProjec. Joining us right now, Patrina Singletary. Patrina, welcome to the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Well, thank you, Antonio. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you for being here with us. Mm-hmm. And hey, we're talking about celibacy and abstinence.
Aha.
Celibacy and abstinence. So, Patrina, I can't start the segment off without asking you: are you practicing celibacy or abstinence right now?
Okay. I'm practicing.
right in there.
I know, right? I am practicing abstinence.
You are practicing
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so now, my next question then is, why are you practicing abstinence?
Well, it's a couple of reasons. First off, of course, I am a believer in Christ and following him, and that is one of the guidelines, is to practice abstinence, until you're married. And also the fact that I suffered with low self-esteem for a number of years, and led to a lot of dead-end relationships. So, and vulnerability got in the way and all of that good stuff, even to the point of a marriage that did not work out. So I'm divorced. But the thing about it is that I have learned to love myself and to value myself and respect myself. So that is the second reason why I practice abstinence.
Okay, so let's go back in this timeline.
Okay, sure.
Okay, let's talk about, before you were married, were you practicing abstinence or celibacy?
I was.
You was? And how long did you practice?
That was about 5-6 years maybe.
Okay, so 5 or 6 years span.
Sure.
Right, okay, so 5 years seems to be the number here.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right, so 5 years, and what was the reason at that time that you decided to become or to abstain?
Abstain. Because, it's always a guy somewhere, who feels as if he is the one. And I was going through a low point in my life. I had a relative that was dying that was very close to me. And so vulnerability set in with me, coupled with low self-esteem.
Wait a minute, before you go there,
sure.
so I just want to make sure
that
we're on the same. So was this, what caused you to, or what was the trigger that made you decide to abstain the first time before marriage?
The first time before marriage.
Is that what you were
well, no, I was talking about the actual guy that I married that triggered everything. Yeah.
But you were abstaining before you got married to him. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay,
yes.
so what made you abstain the first time? That's where we're.
Right, and the very first time with him is what I was saying.
Okay,
is that
I see.
he was the guy,
Okay.
that triggered everything because I thought that he was the guy,
Right.
and that we were going to get married because he said, that I was his wife and all of this good stuff. He had prayed and blah, blah, blah. So, I ignored the signs, the warning signs, because of the fact that, vulnerability and the fact that low self-esteem and the dying relative, yada, yada, yada. And so I fell for the okie doke.
Okay.
And, and I did it. And, I was married to him for 14 years.
Okay, so you got married to him after
Yes.
abstaining?
Yes.
Was the marriage part of the motivation to, from living that life of abstinence? And did marriage become
Yes.
the item, the thing to do because?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Okay.
5 years is a long time.
It really was, The thing of it is that I knew that this was something that I really wanted to do, because I had previous relationships that did not work out, but I wanted to, even with the result of a child, but I wanted to do it differently this time. I wanted to do it right. And I thought that he was Mr. Right, so to speak.
Right. And you abstained. You abstained
right.
up until that marriage.
Right.
But was sex a motivator for the marriage, to become married?
Well, motivator, pretty much, yeah.
Well, you're on Antonio Parkinson Project.
I know, right? I got to be truthfully honest. It was a motivator, and the fact that somebody to love me, because like I said, I did not love myself completely. And so therefore, that went with the package.
That's interesting because, I think a lot of both men and women
sure.
that are practicing abstinence, I think they say they want to practice it, and then get married, and sometimes it appears anyway in some cases that the abstinence becomes, or the sex, the reward of sex becomes the motivation for the marriage.
Right.
And there are so many more aspects of what should go into a marriage
exactly.
that should be present that might not necessarily be present.
Right, exactly.
What do you say to that?
And I totally agree, because like I said, thinking that he was Mr. Right, I ignored the warning signs. There were very obvious warning signs, that were there. The fact that he was very selfish in nature. It was the goal to get me. Because he knew also, like I think another guest said, that I was practicing abstinence, and he knew that would be the angle. If I told her that I would marry her, then she would.
See that as a reward?
That's the payoff. I do believe that. How can I get this woman to have sex with me? You know,
I got
and
all of our audience members are nodding their heads.
Yeah.
So men do see
Yeah.
that as the reward at the end
That
of
is.
a 5-year abstinence excursion.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
right.
And then too, he knew that that I was, a Christian, and that I, was upwardly mobile, and there was more than just that as a payoff. He thought that, because like I said, he was selfish. He thought that he could actually use me. And in some cases he did, unfortunately, until I started learning to love myself.
Right. And so in that time, you abstained.
Sure.
You got married.
Yeah.
And how long did the marriage last?
It lasted, believe it or not, 14 years. But let me say this. Let me say this, though, Antonio. Technically, it only lasted about a couple of years.
Okay.
But I held on. And that's one of the reasons why I've got a platform that I'd like to talk about a little bit later, or come back and talk about it, that I held on to a very toxic relationship.
That is interesting.
Yes.
We definitely have to
Yes,
do a show.
exactly.
Yeah, we're definitely going to. So physically, how long were you guys together?
Physically, 8 years.
8 years, so about
And
half
then-
of that, a little bit more than half of that.
Sure.
Then it stretched out for another 6 years.
Well, no, we were just legally married on paper
Right.
for 6 years. Yeah,
Okay.
but we were separated.
And so in that separation, did you
Sure.
go back to abstinence?
I did, and that's part of the abstinence that I'm doing now for 7 years. I've been 7 years abstinent.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So 7 years. So how's it going now? Is it easier this time than
It
it
is.
was the first time, or is it hard?
Very much so, Antonio, I tell you, because I'm one of those types of persons that I like to only have to bump my head once before I learn, And so, I'm holding out for marriage, I am closer with God now, and I have that constant relationship with Him. He has taught me how to love and to be loved and to love myself. And so I'm not settling this time around. So therefore it's much easier for me to abstain until the true Mr. Right, or the true person that God has for me, comes along.
So what about the urges? Do the urges ever hit you? You
God.
have to teach me.
You would ask me this when you're
You're on Antonio Parkinson Project.
I know, right? That's what you do.
Right.
The thing about yes, I do. I have the urges. I'm human, but I also know that, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. The platform that I'm working on is called "Is a Woman of God Right for You?" I happen to know that the women of God are the best lovers. They're the best. They're very passionate, and so therefore, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right, Antonio. I'm going to do it with my husband, and on a consistent basis. Yeah.
Right.
So I have no problem saying that. Right.
Again, our male viewing audience right now, they're jumping up and down.
I know, right? Go men.
Right. Right. So what happens though, Katrina, when the urges? And the reason why I'm asking you is
Okay,
because,
go ahead. No problem.
We may have members of our viewing audience that are trying to work through this and navigate this process.
Sure.
And so what happens when the urges hit? What do we do? What is a person to do?
A person
Do you
is
go
to
running? Do you drink a cup of coffee?
I know.
Do you what do you do?
This is going to sound funny, but it's two things again. Two things. First of all, chocolate. I love chocolate. Get you some chocolate.
Get you some chocolate.
And then two.
They say chocolate is an aphrodisiac. Am I correct?
What? Oh, am I doing the wrong thing here? It pacifies me. I know. Oh my God. No wonder that. But no, seriously. I love chocolate. But first and foremost, as a believer, I have to say this. Pray. Pray. Stick to your standards, stick to your values, busy yourself. Think about the things that you want to do out of life, what you want to have out of life. Do some good things for you. Love yourself. Pamper yourself. Just whatever you can do to take your mind off it. Because, and that's where it all stems from. Your thinking. Change your thinking.
Inside the mind. That's
Sure,
where
exactly.
it all happens at,
It
right?
really does. It really does.
Yeah. So, Katrina Singletary,
Yes.
you have been absolutely wonderful. We appreciate you
Thank
joining
you.
us on the show. And you
appreciate
talk
being
about
here.
the guests this time. All of you are all welcome back because we have so
Wonderful.
many topics that
Yes.
we're going to be tackling on the Antonio Parkinson Project. So y'all give it up for Katrina Singletary, and stick
you.
around because the doctor is in the building right here on the Antonio Parkinson Project, and you don't want to miss this because you want to hear what she has to say, and we will be right back on the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Skinny fiber works. I've got my skinny fiber. Have you got yours? If you need to drop 5 pounds quickly, skinny fiber works. If you need to get in that little black dress, Skinny Fiber works. Skinny Fiber lets you eat less and feel full. It's 100% all natural. It detoxifies the body, improves blood sugar imbalances, and melts away stubborn fat. Get yours today. For more information, call 901-860-5110. Or you may check out our website at www.skinnyuniverse.com.
Hi, I'm Antonio Parkinson. Join me for the Antonio Parkinson Project each and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on Comcast Channel 31. And welcome back to the show. You are on the Antonio Parkinson Project. I am Antonio Parkinson. Tweet with us right now at Parkinson Project. That's PARKINSON without the T. This segment brought to you by Skinny Fiber. Get your Skinny Fiber. You already said you're going to have a New Year's resolution to lose that weight. Lose the weight now. Get you some Skinny Fiber at www.skinnyuniverse.com. Right there on your screen. SkinnyUniverse.com, or call 901-860-5110 to get your bottle now. Skinny Fiber. Knock that weight off right now for the new year. So joining us right now, Dr. Alicia Bridgeforth. Welcome to the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Hey, Mr. Touche.
Hey, Mr.
How
Touche.
you doing? Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Mm-hmm. And so you do Christian counseling, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
That's good to know. So you've been hearing the show. You've been seeing what's been going on. And before I jump in, I have to ask you, like I asked every other guest, are you living a life of celibacy or abstinence?
It's abstinence now.
So it's abstinence now.
Yes,
and
sir.
So you broke down on our Facebook page the difference between the two. You want to tell us what the difference is?
Right. Well, from like I was saying on the page, my study, abstinence is to abstain from sex for a period of time because you do enjoy sex and you do like to have sex and you do want to be married. But for my study with celibacy is that you don't desire sex at all or you don't desire to be married.
Right. Is there a such thing as forced abstinence? Like, because you hear a lot of women saying, I'm practicing abstinence. Mm-hmm. I'm practicing abstinence. But they're only practicing abstinence because they don't have a man. Okay, Dr. Bridgeforth got quiet on that one.
Yeah, I mean,
for
some women, that's true. But
so is that true abstinence? Or are they just not having sex because they just don't have a man?
Well, it's true abstinence because it's abstinence. They are abstaining from sex, period.
Right.
So,
is it forced abstinence because maybe somebody, there's just no one to have sex with, or is abstinence really just you deciding that you're not going to have?
I think it's you deciding because it's a choice. Because just because you don't have a man, per se on your own, it's still plenty of them out there that you can just go have sex with, and don't have to have a relationship.
I guess that's true. But let me ask you this. So is abstinence also abstaining from all forms of sex, or is it just physical sex with another individual?
I say all forms of sex.
So, did you hear that? And viewing audience, that's all forms of sex. So those of you that are just abstaining from having sex with another individual, so if you have all of this equipment in your room, then that's not true abstinence per Dr. Alicia Bridgeforth. Am I correct in my statement?
You correct.
Interesting. And did you hear all of the air go out of the viewing room for all of those that thought they were practicing abstinence? That's what happens on the Antonio Parkinson Project. We keep it 100. So, Dr. Bridgeforth, tell us, so you're practicing now, right?
Right.
Have you done it before? How long have you been practicing right now?
Right now, it's been a year, a little over a year.
A little over a year. And what made you decide to start practicing abstinence?
Well, can I go when it started?
You can go wherever you want to go, Dr. Bridgeforth.
The first time was, like I said, first love, where I heard first love, like you said, previous guest said, like I had a man I thought I was in love with, my first daughter's dad. And how long was it? That's been like 20 years ago there.
Okay, 20
years ago. When we broke up, I immediately went into fornicate, like just sleeping with different people.
Wait, okay, let me ask you. Were you married to?
I was not married to him.
You was not married to him, but he was your significant other?
I was in love.
And how long were y'all together?
3 years.
So 3 years. Okay, and you got your relationship. You broke up.
It broke up.
And you said you immediately went into having sex with
other people because I thought that would fill a void. But after the fact, I was in church, and I was like, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. So that's the first time I practiced abstinence.
So just so the audience can follow us. Break up with the boyfriend. And you started having, I mean, were you having sex, a lot of sex, or were you multiple partners? What was happening there?
I ain't gonna say like a lot of sex. It was probably like 6 months in a period of time, but it was different people. It wasn't the same guy.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to get in another serious relationship.
Right.
My mind said back then, before Steve Harvey even came out with the book Think Like a Man, that's what I went on. I'm gonna think like they think. I'm gonna do what they do.
Right.
And that's what I did.
And what was happening to get you to that point?
Because I was hurt, heartbroken, and I thought my daughter's dad was the man for me because I waited 20 years. I was a virgin until I was 20. 20 years to waiting for the right man. He wasn't the right man.
Right.
And so that just threw me off, and like I said, I became depressed. I did a lot.
And I bet you it's a lot. There are a lot of women, not just women, but men also that have had their hearts broken and started, thinking along other lines, and I guess that's a mechanism that would appears anyway to help a person cope with the heartbreak and also help a person make them think that their guard is up, and they're protecting themselves by blocking out the emotional part of it. But really, in reality, they're bringing more harm.
Bring more harm,
than they
right?
were before. I almost think I'm the doctor here. So
Right.
Dr.
So after that, then after going to church, it was like over a year, and I read my Bible. Like I say, I was telling people about celibacy. Paul in the Bible was celibate, and Paul said he wished that all could be like him, but he knew they weren't. So it's like if you couldn't, if you burn with lust or whatever, you need to get married. And it also states in that passage that some have the gift of being celibate, some don't. But whatever gift God gives you, you go with it.
But
so
let me jump in again. But if you burn with lust, you need to get married. So is that a reason to get married?
I mean, that's the only reason that Paul gives. That's why he states also being single is better. In his aspect, he said it wasn't from God, but being single is better when you want to serve God, because when you do get married, you got to please that man. You got to do that, and your body ain't yours, his body ain't his. And I mean, you got to go into knowing what you're getting married for. But sex is a big reason to get married, because that's what the Bible states. And in that fact, when I read that, I said, well, I don't have to give Paul half. So God, you're going to send me a husband. So that was a whole year, and he came within a year.
Your husband came within a year?
He came within a year,
right.
And we had sex before we got married.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I ain't had a gift. And
wait a minute.
I had that gift.
So your husband came within a year.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you break your I guess your vow to yourself of abstinence, even before you got married?
Right. What made like say I like sex, I like the feeling, I like being touched, I'm a very affectionate person. Okay. And he was affectionate as well, but
started.
Yeah, but some kind of way I knew I had him.
Okay.
So, but before we got married, we made a vow that January that we was going to abstain from sex, and we got married that July, which we did. Because we were showing each other it wasn't even about sex.
Right, so you abstained for another 6 months.
Right.
Before marriage. Okay.
And then after that, a lot of stuff went on. I got married in 94. That's why I'm telling my story strange. After 10 years, my husband, the person he was and what he did to get me, he began to change. He said he wanted to be who he really was. I'm like, Jesus,
wait a minute.
10 years.
So here's the case, and we're going to do a show on this about what we call the forward team.
Mm-hmm.
So the forward team came, and his representation,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said after 10 years,
after 10 years,
the real person showed up.
He wanted to be, and I
wow.
told him that wasn't who I married. I said, that's a whole new person I got to get to know. So we went through some things.
What's the difference between the person that you were with for 10 years and the new person?
The person that I was with for 10 years that I knew did not drink, did not cuss, said that was delivered from pornography, but all that came back around that everything that I thought he wasn't doing, he was doing. Mm-hmm. And then also the hygiene went down, and so I became unattracted to him sexually. And like I say, I'm fast forwarding up. We separated. I've been separated for 7 years now, and of those 7 years, I abstained 5.
Okay.
And I failed again.
Okay, and I was about to ask that question. So you've been separated for 7 years, you abstained 5. So the 2 years of non-abstinence, was that on the front end or the back end?
Well, they would say like I'm a year now, so it's on the back end.
Okay, so you're a year in back in abstinence again.
Right. And
Okay.
the thing is, I was telling your producer that, God was in the mysterious ways, because even we're friends, but it come to find out his mom died in February this last year. My dad died in May, and then it come to find out he had stage 4 cancer.
Wait a minute. And are we talking about who are we talking about?
I'm talking about my husband.
Your husband. Okay.
And he's at my home now.
Was it the husband that you had broke your abstinence with,
Right.
or was it a new person?
Oh, no, it's a new person. I desire my husband anymore. I don't desire him sexually at all.
Just never ever happened again for him after the
Never.
separation?
It
Or
still
before the separation?
Before the separation happened, but
Okay.
after the separation, I've never been with my husband since. But like I said, my husband's in my home now but we're real good friends, but I'm not attracted to him sexually at all.
Oh,
That's something else, honey.
right. That is interesting. So you abstain and
I'm
so
abstaining.
now, which I don't want to veer too far off the subject, but I think my audience wants to know. So your husband is living with you now
Yeah, because
of his.
that stage 4, and he was staying by himself, but he never got a sense of responsibility. That was another reason we separated, because he never got a sense of responsibility, how to take care of himself and all of that. And then I have a nephew that I went and got from a mental institute, that I work at night, and I needed someone to be there with him at night, and by him not working, and so he came in to help with that.
So all of that worked itself out.
Yep.
Right. And and back to the abstinence.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next? You're a year in now.
I'm a year in.
You're a year in now, and what are you waiting for?
What I'm waiting for, this is what I'll be talking to God straight out, like, look, I know I prayed, and I know I'm helping this man out, I'm helping my nephew out. I said, but when it's all said and done, I want a new man. I told the Lord, but I know I had to go with the divorce. Because I did put in for a divorce, but after all this came up on him, I didn't want to put, I'm a good person, I'm a good woman, put so much on him, and so I just put it off.
But what is the abstinence going to do for you? What do you want to get out of this?
Well, the abstinence for me now, like, if I don't, I'm going to tell you the truth, Touche. If another man, a serious relationship, a marriage doesn't come my way, I'm happy. I truly am happy with myself.
And you will abstain for the rest of your life?
If that's what it took, I would abstain.
You will abstain for the rest of your life?
I'm to that point now, because I'm to the point where I want to know who I am, what I'm about, why am I here, and to keep focus. I kept finding out, to keep focus on me, and you got to find out what they want, what to do for them. Like Paul was saying, it's no longer about God, but it's about that man. So
right.
I'm abstaining for the purpose of me, and that's what I want to do, and like so, I'm happy with it.
Right. And so, on the next abstinence show I do, I'm going to have a medical doctor on here to tell us, too, if there's medical issues that happen. In fact, we may put up something for the audience to read, to cover the medical side of this, at the end of the show. In fact, we are. So make sure you read at the end of the show what the doctors say, how abstinence affects the body, or how too much sex affects the body as well. So we put both sides of it up. And Dr. Bridgeforth, thank you so much for being on the Antonio Parkinson Project to tell us your story. And don't forget, if you're trying to practice this, if you want to practice this, just give it your all and keep God first, and you'll probably be able to make it. I'm Antonio Parkinson. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Powered by Black Market Strategies.